Howdy, folks. Welcome to Gospel News Network. My name is Rory, and today is Tuesday, July the 27th, 2022. And I hope this message finds everybody doing well. And I touched on something in the last video that I did, excuse me, about a worship basket. And I wanted to come back and revisit that. And I wrote an article several years ago that we're going to look at in just a moment regarding this topic. And I think that it's really important, and it ties into everything that I've been part of for the past number of years and everything that I believe. And it ties in directly to the Gospels and the teaching of Jesus Christ and every aspect of our lives, really. I mean, it ties in whether you're a Christian or a believer, or it doesn't matter, because this it applies to you as well. And it just is, it's part of who we are, and we can't get away from that, and it can't be denied. And I'm about to demonstrate that. And the worship basket is something that's built into every human being that ever was, that is, and that ever will be. Every person, every human that ever has been. That includes you. And what it is, some of you probably have heard of a God-sized hole. And if you know of anybody that's been in recovery, or you yourself have been in recovery, or maybe not, maybe you just heard it in church or just heard it in passing, but we have built into us, into every one of us, we have built into our soul, a space that is for God. He built it. He built us, and he built this space into us. And you can put in there whatever you would like. You can put, his desire is that you put him in that basket, and that is your focus. But we don't always do that. Some people put their job in, and that's their main focus. They just work, work, work. We call them workaholics. Then you have foodies that they just focus on food. Their whole life is food. I'm not talking about people that are really overweight, these obese people. I'm talking about people that are obsessed with food and the flavor and the textures and how they can make the greatest dish ever. And you have people that are obsessed with exercise, and they're constantly in the gym. They're constantly running. They're constant, that's their whole focus. And in sports, we all know that. We all have the friend that can spout every stat ever known to mankind about some team or player or whatever. And it's whatever your focus is, that's what's in your worship basket. That's what's filling it. That's what's filling that God-sized hole. Like I said, God built it for himself, and his hope is that we put him in there, and that our focus is him, and that we focus on God, and that our lives are centered around him, and that the name of Jesus Christ is above all names. Jesus, everybody else. I am second. So that is a huge part of what gets us off track also in our life, and starts causing problems. I mean, it can cause us huge problems. And that is, it's actually a sin to do that. And some of you are arguing in your mind right now, saying, "Oh, you're wrong, Rory. You don't know what you're talking about." You see it quite clearly if you spend any time on social media, especially where there's financial situations that are involved. People with crypto, Bitcoin in particular. These people are completely obsessed with crypto and with Bitcoin, and that's all they talk about. Period. It's their whole life, and it causes us enormous problems. just like if we were doing drugs or alcohol or a combination thereof, or heroin or meth or any of that nonsense, if we're doing that, that becomes our whole obsession, and that causes problems that everyone can see, and that's not socially acceptable. If you're a gym rat, well, that's socially acceptable. If you're a foodie, that's socially acceptable. If you're a workaholic, well, that's socially acceptable to a point. If you're a womanizer, or, you know, uh, just somebody that's just having sex with everybody, man or woman, it doesn't matter. If that's your jumping off point, if that's what you focus on all the time, is how many people you can bang in a day or in a week or in a month or in your lifetime or whatever, we have to turn that around. And it became quite clear when I was doing this Gospel News Network. Don't forget to come over, gospelnewsnetwork.org. It gets refreshed a couple of times a day. This is the story that I did yesterday. As they went, they were cleansed. It was stone step 2. It's the video. This is the short article that I wrote around it. And I would really appreciate it if you come over and take a look. It's a good article. It's a good video. This one goes right along with it. This is the article that I wrote back in, I think it was 2019. It was probably earlier than that. May have been, I don't know. But as you can see in the image right there, there's a little basket out in the middle of a field. And that's the way that I see it. I see this, what some people call a God-sized hole. I see it as a basket. And like I said, we can put in there whatever we want. God should occupy the largest portion of that space. If not all of that space, he should occupy the largest portion. Now, and I'd forgotten until I opened this up earlier, before I started recording, that I put a quote in here from C.S. Lewis, who is one of the all-time great theologians. He was accidental. He didn't intend to be. I believe he actually intended to dispel Christianity, but I may be wrong, so don't hold me to that. But what he said about God and this worship basket that I'm talking about is that, quote, God made us, invented us as a man invents an engine. A car is made to run on petrol, and it would not run properly on anything else. Now, God designed the human machine to run on himself. He himself, God, is the fuel our spirits were designed to burn, or the food our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other. There is no other. That is why it is just no good asking God to make us happy in our own way without bothering about religion. God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from himself, because it is not there. It doesn't exist. And that's from someone who is a whole lot smarter than I will ever be, and who knows a whole lot more about Christianity than I will ever know. You don't have to claim to be a Christian. You don't have to claim Christianity. All you have to claim is Jesus Christ. That's it. That doesn't make you an automatic Christian. It doesn't make you anything. It just makes you a person that believes in the sovereignty of God, and the sovereign God that is part of us, who made us. And once we start putting all of these other things in that basket that don't belong, then the more items that we put in there, the more that God gets pushed out. So as we're pushing God out of our lives, we become more selfish, self-centered, and self-serving. And then people start fleeing from our lives. Look around, you can see it. When we start obsessing on something other than God, and even that will drive people away. But when all we talk about is Bitcoin, or all we talk about is sports, or exercise, or work, or whatever it is, we are actually living in sin. Our lives are becoming darker, and our heart is becoming harder, and we find ourselves surrounded by sin, because the only situations that we're going to find ourselves in are the ones that support these concepts, these ideas that we ourselves are so focused on, that become our situation. If you're focused on God and the people that are in your life, that's the only people that are in your life are the ones that are focused on God, I really don't see how that's a bad thing. I don't see how that could be bad, unless it's being abused, which it can be. And we've seen that throughout all of history. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not standing here asking you guys for anything. I've never asked you for anything. Never once. I've been making videos for 12 years. I've never once held out my hat and said, hey, put something in the kitty. I've never done that. I've never done that. Got plenty of people that do that all day long. I'm not one of them, and I never will. If you want to support what I'm doing, that's great. It's beautiful. I've got a donation page. Have at it. If you don't, okay, so what? If we're surrounded by people that are focused on God, our lives will become a whole lot less selfish, a whole lot less self-centered, and a whole lot less self-serving. We will do for others very, very quickly. We will help people very quickly, and explain to me how that's bad for our world, how that's bad for our community and our family. If my heart is filled with empathy and concern for others, how is that a bad thing? It's not. Can't be. We also have God is a jealous God. Jesus is a jealous God. He doesn't want to share, doesn't like to share. And it says in Paul, the greatest missionary known to the world, wrote to the people of Philippi, the Philippians, in chapter 2, he says, wherefore God also has highly exalted him, Jesus, and given him, Jesus, a name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. When we are focused on Jesus, that leaves very little room for any of the other stuff that gets in the way of our life. It just doesn't leave any room for it. You have to remember, I was drinking and drugging for 25 years of my life, steadily, constantly. It was a constant, all the time, every day. Prior to that, first time I took drugs, recreationally, I was 9 years old. First time I got drunk in my life, I was either 11 or 12. I can't even remember which. I've been trying to find out. There was a band that played. Barefoot Jerry was doing a free concert in Nashville, and I went. And for my 13th birthday, all my friends got together and bought a sack of weed, and we sat around and smoked weed all day for my 13th birthday. By age 15, it was on. It was full on. There was no room for God. There was no room for anything from age 15 to age 40. You lose a lot of yourself. So having an understanding of this worship basket means everything. Having an idea of that and I'm getting ready to do another video about what's going on with this worship basket and how we can get it cleaned up, what happens, and the next steps in this. But I wanted to clarify how we're moving forward with this. So, because it's about to get real, it's about to get serious. So, really appreciate everybody tuning in. There'll be more on this to come. So, I hope everybody's doing well. May the peace and love of God be with you. And I look forward to comments, visits over to all the links are in the description box below. So thank you all so much. And I really appreciate all the support.